Hello and welcome to the Jocelyn Moore Show. I'm your host, Jocelyn Moore, and as always, we're here to inform, inspire, and entertain with dynamic conversations that matter.
She told me that I needed to immediately start working the steps. So I started with the 12 steps.
So let's take your power back and forgive, do the work to heal.
At that age, they're just saying it out of anger. There isn't a real intent to do it.
In all the aspects of our life, we look for diversity, but in church, we want everything to be in a box.
So it's really about empowering our family, keeping each other strong even when we're gone, and creating a legacy that will always exist.
Today, we will be diving into a powerful discussion inspired by the principle of Clifton Harcum, author and founder of Live Now. Live Now is a call to action to embrace your power, passion, and purpose. This conversation is about living boldly, taking action, and fully engaging with life. We explore the transformative power of outdoor recreation as a way to recharge, connect, and discover new dimensions of ourselves. Harcum believes that by living intentionally, we unlock the ability to create the life we truly desire. We will talk about how embracing these experiences can help us show up more powerfully for ourselves and the world around us. Clifton Harcum is a director of Multicultural Affairs at SUNY Geneseo College, New York. Thank you for coming. Give us a little background about yourself.
Okay, yes, I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. Upon graduating from high school, I went to the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, got my bachelor's in sociology, lived on the Eastern Shore for about 20 years. From then on, I moved up to upstate New York, and my life has never been the same.
Talk to us about your role as the director of Multicultural Affairs.
Yeah, well, it extends to some of the work I've been doing since 2005, advocating for marginalized communities, really looking out for the people who are looked over, providing opportunities, being an example, and being able to impact communities and help communities who normally may not get that type of attention. And the thing I love about my job, at least how I handle my job, is that I'm able to be creative and find different ways in order to interact with people and have people connect. So I kind of, what I do for a living is a slight extension of who I am as a person. So
how did your higher education journey begin with a passion?
yeah, so like I said, I'm from Baltimore. I was never really like a school person. I went to school, both my parents are educated, but I was never really like into school, really. I would do school. I was smart. When I was younger, I was in gifted and talented program for a while. I just never really tried a lot for a while. So long story short, I was working at a university during the summer after graduation, doing construction, doing some regular work. And someone told me that it was an opening in residence life. And I didn't really feel that I had the leadership ability, the skills. And I wasn't really considering myself a leader. I applied. After vigorous interviews, I was able to get the job. And that kind of really started me on the path in higher education. But throughout that journey, I was able to develop a lot of things within myself, leadership skills, confidence. And I've been in at higher ed almost ever since. I left for a little while. After everything that took place with George Floyd and everything, it kind of burnt me out. I think we were talking around that time in the past. I took a hiatus because it was a lot. But, the work and also higher education, it just kept calling to me. So I missed it. At that time, I was the executive director for the Chamber of Commerce down in Maryland, one of the chambers there, and it just wasn't the same. I missed the conversations. I missed the energy. I missed being able to be real creative. I missed the freedom. and I love upstate New York, so I came back.
You said when you were in school, you were a very good student, but you didn't really care for school, right?
I was a decent student. I was like a C student, B student. It depends if I wanted to try. A lot of my time in school was more so me not really putting in effort. But I had to, like, when I wanted to study, I can get an A, I can get a B. It wasn't hard for me to do the work. It just wasn't a priority to me.
Well, let me tell you something. When I was in school a few years back, okay, more than a few years back, right? My worst subject was math. Until this day, I still have nightmares.
Who you telling?
That was my worst subject. The teacher had me going from the class. I didn't know what I was doing. And I had to figure out something. It was a vision of something. I don't know. I was writing something down. She said, okay, not bad. Keep going. Then I messed up. I didn't know what I was doing. But that's the one thing in school was that.
Math is like his whole different language. If you're good at math, you have so many opportunities. Yeah, math is a whole thing, but teachers, everybody have their skills, everybody have their things,
True. When did you get your first true taste of the outdoors, and what was that experience like?
Okay, yeah, my first true taste was living on the Eastern Shore. When I was working at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, I ended up moving up the ranks, and I became the director for an office called the Office of University Engagement and Lifelong Learning. And in that position, I wanted to try something different. So I created this program. It's called like an alternative spring break. They do them at colleges all around the country. And I took some students to New Orleans post-Katrina to assist with, you know, restoration of a little city. And we explored the town. They did some things. And it was a very good experience. That wasn't truly in the country, but it was a taste to get me. It had me wanting to do more because we were out on the bayou, all of that. So when I came back, I planned a trip out at this cabin in the middle of the woods. And that trip right there really changed everything for me on another level. We were in this cabin. We were sleeping on like pads. We had the fire pit outside. Our grill was open stars and skies. And this thing, being in that environment where it was scary, because none of us has ever been in a situation like that before, and having the conversations we were having, like just feeling that natural sense of like peace and freedom. And it just felt so natural. I became hooked. And that was my first experience. And after that, I just couldn't go back to just settling for just the city. No, I changed completely. It was interesting.
There are some people who would say I would stay in the city no matter what. Some people just like the city life.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I'm from Baltimore. So when people that knew me know that I started doing that stuff, they thought I was crazy because, who camps? Like if you're from the city, depending on where you grew up and how you grew up. My father was from Baltimore. My mother, she was from a rural area, but we never got exposed to that, like growing up. So, and culturally, I'll be honest with you, especially younger, like Black people don't do that. That's what white people do. So it wasn't even something like amongst my peer group or culture that I was in at the time that even considered that as something to do for fun or recreation. It was just different. I think it's so amazing, like how much I love the outdoors now and thinking about my first experience. It's totally different perspective.
Looking back, how would you say your childhood experience were different from your son experiencing today?
Different world. I grew up during the 80s. So it was different. Playing outside was like our entertainment. Like more cultural pride was there amongst our community. It was just a different world. Now my son's situation is slightly different. I grew up in the city. He's grown up in rural parts of America. So he grew up on the Eastern Shore, slower pace, friendlier people, not as dangerous. And then, we moved up to New York when he was 6, I believe. He was either 6 or 7. So moving from a sort of multicultural to a degree place like the Eastern Shore to moving upstate New York where you're in like 98, 97, 96% white communities. His life is completely different from mine. And the things that I'm interested in now, he's grown up doing them. I came up to New York to get involved in outdoor recreation and things like that. So we just have a completely different experience when it comes to like playing, social pressures, peer pressure. It's just a completely different life. Yeah.
You have your son has a lot of confidence now from when you were growing up.
100% more confident than me. I had my own issues. I had my own insecurities because now I'm a bigger guy. But when I was younger, my ears, I had the big old ears. I had, we grew up in a different time. Teasing and all of that stuff was horrible back then. So he doesn't grow up with all those self-imposed confidence issues that I had growing up. Not at all.
That is great. That is great. Actually, I like to ask you this question. Why is there a lack of diversity in the outdoors?
Probably some of the reasons that we talked about earlier, being afraid that something's going to happen to you and no one knows, not being exposed to it early on in your life. Like you said, what's one of the differences between me and my son? So I didn't grow up like that. Since I moved up here, he's used to being in the woods. So that's an option for him if he wants to do it compared to me when I was young. I didn't even have that option to consider. And I remember when I first came up, I was scared out of my mind. But what I learned when you come to the outdoors, it's mental. You just have to block all of that out. Still make sure you're doing things to keep yourself safe, but you really have to, you gotta block it out. But if you want to do it, do it. People get in car accidents all the time, but they still drive. So, so it really comes down to like overcoming those fears and being prepared. I recommend if you're going out for the first time and you haven't really been involved to bring someone with you. I know when I first started going, I was scared. I turned away, went in the house, drugged my son out the house and had him go with me.
Now, I want to ask you this question. Have you ever come face to face with a bear?
No, that was one of my biggest fears. And up where I live, they are bears. I used to talk to the local people like, you ever run into a bear? They're like, yeah, I ran into bears, but I had my dog. Or you don't have to worry about, I think they had black bears up here. Or brown or black bears, whatever bear it is. They said, they scared of people. I'm like, yeah, okay. I just feel so blessed that I haven't run into a bear. I've seen some deer. And I think at one point it was either some coyotes or whatever mountainous lion is up here. I didn't see it, but I could hear them around me. I was scared and I was out of there. But I haven't really come across a bear though.
On a personal level, what motivates you to join the ADI and explain to our audience the meaning of ADI?
So the ADI is the Adirondack Diversity Initiative. So when I first came up to upstate New York, I was working at this college called SUNY Potsdam. And like I said, I wanted to do some outdoor stuff and I was doing diversity work. So, I always think it's important when you go to places you don't know to really find people that you can connect with, that you trust, that know the area. So they said, well, it's this new executive director that started at this organization called the Adirondack Diversity Initiative. You should talk to her. And me and her kicked it off really, really well. And their job was to diversify the Adirondacks, provide education. And I had this concept from a trip that I used to do back in Maryland, the alternative spring breaks, by getting students outdoors. And we partnered and we started putting on these experiences for students of color, but really getting Black and brown students outdoors. And from then on, it was over. I started this kind of thing called Live Now. And it was a program that I kind of created a while back. And when I was in Maryland, I came up with the concept and the name, and it was solely about, living your life, facing your fears, challenging yourself, really about living life, like live your life while waiting for tomorrow, live now. And it took off. it really took off. And we were taking students everywhere, and partnering with the ADI actually made it possible because they helped fund a lot of the things that we were doing, because their mission was to fund these type of programs to diversify the Adirondacks in upstate New York. And we've been working together since then. The school I was at previously, they're still doing the work. It's been over 4 years. That program is still running on that campus. And now I'm here at SUNY Geneseo. I'm establishing that program now. Actually, next week, we're taking a trip to the Adirondacks. So I have about 12 students that I'm taking up there, and it's for a 3-day trip. And we're going to do a lot of good stuff up there.
Throughout your career, you held various leadership roles with educational institutions. Can you talk about that?
Like, I've been doing this for a while now in higher ed, and I like it because I have students that I can impact, and I can provide a different perspective and vibe, because I'm so secure with myself. I'm not trying to impress people like I'm smart, I'm this, I'm that, I want to. To me, that stuff is irrelevant at this point in my life. For me, more it's about helping students, especially in the roles that I'm in. Like, being in these predominantly white areas and working at these predominantly white schools is very tough for Black and brown kids. I mean, students, it really is. Even for professional, it's hard. So I just like the fact that I can go into these areas and having my experiences from HBCUs and coming to these spaces and being unapologetically me as a Black man, and not focus on assimilating and conforming. I think it's like refreshing for students who may be feeling real insecure or feeling like they can't be themselves. I deal with a lot. I take a lot of risks with it because, people won't judge me, but I just don't believe that I need to assimilate just because I'm in a predominantly white environment. I think as a person in diversity, equity, and inclusion work, we speak a lot about being your authentic selves. And if we're going to tell people to be their authentic selves, we should be our authentic selves. But the problem with it is, I'll be honest with you, there's risks. But at the same time, I'm a religious guy. I don't say religious, I'm a spirit. I believe in God, and I believe in myself. And I know that I'm out here doing the right thing to support people that I'm supposed to support. And I know God's always going to make a way for me to be okay no matter what. And throughout my life, from childhood to now, God has always provided a way for me. God has made it so that I'm here today and doing all of these great things. Look, I'm just a guy who don't even like school, that grew up in Baltimore, and I've done some amazing things in my life. And if it wasn't for God giving me the ability and blessing me with opportunities, they would never come my way. So I don't really fear, man. I just try to be true to myself, be the best man I can for my family, and try to help people. Like I said earlier, that's why I like this work. I'm in a position where I can help. And I've helped people in a lot of different ways, from community to feeding families to working with youth to helping parents. And this is just another extension of help when it's needed. And when it's not needed for me to be here, I won't be here either. And I'm just going with life. I'm just living my life according to whatever the will is of God.
I feel like you're a blessing to a lot of people and to your son. I mean, so blessed to have you as a father. You hear a lot of negative things about the Black man. You hear more negative than positive. And there is a lot of positive, but somehow the negative tends to sell more than the positive.
Yeah, let me tell you something interesting, though. It's so interesting you say that. So when I first started in higher ed, I was just some guy, it's 2005, 2006. And I created a male initiative called the Men of Distinction. It's still there at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. It's been there for over 20 years, like 20 years now. Yeah. And there, I have the article still when it first came out. That's how I initially got into this type of work. My thing was to change the image of the Black man. Back then, in 2001, 2004 to 2005, we were looked at as thugs. We looked at as, and I'm like, no, we more than that. I still had that first article. And it's funny, at the time, I went to college with my high school sweetheart, and I said, man, all I want to do is be read about. All I want to do is just be read about one day. And that article was the first article that I was ever written about. And I still have it from that day, from 2000, I think it was 2006, with the Male Initiative. And that's how I started this, like trying to help young Black men and changing the image of how they see us and trying to wipe away those stereotypes. So I appreciate you saying those things because you know how it is, being a Black male in society, you get criticized, you get overlooked. People don't seem like you get valued as much. But, opportunities like this, doing great things to help, it's a way. It's just, it's different. It's different. But we got to be there for our sons. Got to be there for our sons.
What advice would you give someone interested in pursuing a career in multicultural affairs? What advice would you give someone?
Ooh, the toughest thing is, you're dealing with a lot of people and you're dealing with a lot of topics that people don't feel comfortable with. You're dealing with a lot of emotions. So the advice I would say is to understand that you got to have self-care. You got to take care of yourself mentally and emotionally because it's a lot. And when you're dealing with different cultures, different types of people from everything, religious, spiritual, gender, race, you're dealing with the topics that people used to say you don't talk about. You don't talk about race, religion, or politics. My job is that. And it's not just with Black people. It's not just with white people. It's with all types of people. So it's a very difficult job. One thing I've learned in this type of work is that, look, we all got our biases. I got biases. I have my own biases. But the thing about it is, when you're dealing with people, and this is what I learned the most, regardless of my thoughts or views on things, when a person comes to me, I have to remind myself, you always just have to look at the person as a person. Like, that is the biggest thing. You have to throw anything you might think or feel out the window because this person is coming for you for help. And this person is coming to you for support. And you want to try to be the best human being you can be when you're interacting with that person. And I'll tell you, that is a tricky thing to do if you don't do the work on yourself. Like, you have to learn to be real honest with yourself and know yourself so well because you don't want your biases and your thoughts about things to impact how you deal with other people. Because that's the cornerstone of the work. Whether you Black, whether you white, whether you gay, whether you Hispanic, whether you Muslim, Jewish, Hindu, you want to make sure that you're not impacting another person's life in a negative way. And that's tricky. And it takes a person to be very self-aware. But you take on a lot of emotional, because you're dealing with a lot of stuff. You're hearing a lot of stuff. And you have to push your stuff out. You can't have any of that when you're dealing with people because you won't create a good environment for them. And you have to be able to be honest. You got to be able to speak. You got to take risk. It's scary. Like, I can lose my job whenever. I say all kinds of stuff to people in different positions. And not everybody want like what I have to say or how I say it. I say stuff my way, So just know that you put yourself at risk when you open your mouth about things that people might not feel comfortable hearing when it comes to advocating for people. But I get it, though. Who wants to hear that? Who wants to hear that they're wrong about something or their approach isn't right when they think they know everything? Who wants to hear that? Who wants to hear that, yeah, you might have a bias or whatever, and you like, I'm a good person? Who wants to hear that? I get it. I get it. But, and look at, we said we're not going to talk politics, but look at the climate now. Like, what are you going to do? It's a lot of stuff that you have to address. That's just uncomfortable. People don't like to talk about things that make them uncomfortable.
How would things get better if you don't want to talk about it or it's too uncomfortable? It would stay the same. Nothing would change. You have to.
Nah, and honestly, I feel you on that. And, like I said, I have my own approach. My thing is this. People like to use things that sound comfortable and not cause friction and all that, and that's great. But I'm like, look, if we don't get down to the nitty-gritty, what are we changing? If I'm coming to you with some falseness, we're going to build something fake. We're never going to solve the problems if we aren't able to be honest and hear views, even if you don't agree. Say you don't like me because I got a beard and I look like a black savage or something. I don't know. Say it. Let's have a conversation about that. Let's really talk. Let's talk about it. And maybe you might learn something that you didn't know about yourself. Maybe you might learn that, my beard is for whatever reasons and my body language. I'm not mad because I'm talking like this. It's a cultural thing. I'm expressive. I'm showing passion, but if you don't ever say it and you hide it behind some veil of, well, so no, like, come on, we're not solving anything. We're not solving anything. So I just believe honesty, like real honesty, not being politically correct, like just honesty and not trying to stop people from having that honest conversation. Say you're a person that's very conservative and you're dealing with a liberal. Let people talk. We'll never solve things if we just want to hear what we like to hear. And we'll never solve anything if we think our idea is the only idea.
Now, let's talk about your projects. You have any projects in the works?
Yeah. I'm happy you said that. So, my book just came out. It's called Live Now, Embrace Your Power, Purpose, and Passion. It's on Amazon. Man, the reviews, people read it. They love it. I actually love it. I actually wanted to make something really, really good. And I'm proud of this work. I'm proud of it. That's happening. I'm also doing my entrepreneurial thing. I do speaking engagements, talking to groups. I'll have some information out about that shortly. Empowering people, whether you're a young adult to a youth to a working professional like me. I'm in my 40s, and you still need encouragement and empowerment. I'm putting together soon, doing my stuff with Live Now, getting people outdoors, doing outdoor experiences. That's in the works. Yeah. Try to live full, die empty. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Live full, die empty. That's where I'm at.
Do you have any way people can contact you?
I can be reached on Facebook. Ugh, I wish I knew my stuff. Clifton Harcum. I'm only like one person. I have on this Live Now hoodie. You'll see me. I'm also on Instagram. I believe my Instagram name is like Mr. Live Now 83. Definitely get with me on that. I have a lot of posts about things that's going on, just living my life, doing things. I'll have a site up soon, just a general website for like my speaking and my books and everything. But right now, I'm just living me, being me. People contact me through DMs and instant messenger. And, I would love to connect. So you can find me there. I have an email. My email is it charcum1@outlook.com. I can be reached on there.
Take your time and say it again, your email.
I don't even want to pull out my phone. I feel like an old man. I don't know. So my email is charcum1@icloud.com. That's the one I know all the time. So charcum1@icloud.com. If you want to talk, if you want me to connect, if you want to link up, or if you want me to come out and speak to some of your groups, I'm always available. But the best way is through Instagram or Facebook. It's just easier. I get a bunch of emails. Yeah.
That's good. Well, you know what? We come to the end of the show. Now, do you have any last words for our viewers?
What I would say is you only have one life, live it. And why wait for tomorrow? Live now. Live your life. You only get one.
You're right. Only gets once. Well, Clifton, thank you so much for joining us today. You are always welcome to come back anytime.
Thank you. It's been great.
And to our viewers, if you like what you see, subscribe to the Jocelyn Moore Show. Want to be a guest on our show? Head over to our website, www.jmentertainment.info. On the homepage, click on About and follow directions to be a guest. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, take care and keep watching.